Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of GM Philosophy Live. And today we're going right into it. We're talking about comments. We're going into my comment section, and I'm going to address comments. I'm going to read comments. We're going to talk about them. So if you've left a comment recently, guess what? You may get put on the show. You may not have even expected to get put on the show, but you're getting put on the show. There are some great comments. There's some funny ones. I get a lot of I get a lot of hate in the comments. I get a lot of rudeness. I get a lot of good questions. I get a lot of comments. Like people being nice, legitimately nice. It's a trip, man. It's a trip reading my comments. So we're going to go into it today. I just want to let you know you can smash that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, help me out. Leave me a comment. Leave me another comment. Even if you have left one. If you've never left one, leave one. Say hi. I would love to meet you. There's probably people who watch my channel. I'm not even aware of it. But let's dive right in, okay? I'm going to share my screen. I hope everyone's having a good day today. I have about 20 to 30 minutes for this live stream. Super pumped to dive into this. Just a quick little note. I'm running some games on Start Playing Games tonight. Well, tomorrow, technically at 1 a.m. I'm launching into the Darkest Dawn. It'll be session 3, I believe. Session 3 or session 4. Actually, I can't remember. But I've got games open on Start Playing Games if you want to game with me. Click on the link in the description. Go check it out. So anyway, without further ado, let's dive in. I hope that everyone can see this okay. Maybe if I make the screen a slight bit bigger. Can we make it bigger? Yeah, okay. We can make it bigger. Drop me a comment. Let me know if you can hear my audio okay. Perhaps I should check my audio before we move too much further. It should be okay, but you never know. Sometimes you run into technical issues and you just never expect them. You never expect them. I'm going to check on this here real quick. Drop me a comment. Let me know if you can hear my audio. Yeah, audio is okay. I just checked it in another screen. All right. Audio good. Picture slightly fuzzy. I've been having slightly fuzzy pictures lately. I don't know what's going on. I don't think that's a problem I can solve at this moment, though. So I think we're probably okay. Maybe I need to clean my camera lens. That's probably what needs to happen. So I hope that it's good enough that you can follow along. All right. Sickled Blaze, great to have you. Great to have you. Thank you so much. Avery Juno was here earlier. I don't know if you're still here, but if you are, awesome to have you. All right. Let's dive into it. These are just basically, you'll see over here on the right, videos that I've made recently. And then these comments are to those videos. So that's just what it is. We're going to go through them. Really, Garbage Fires said, really like your content, man. Was unsure at first, but watch every video I come across now. Thank you so much. That's really nice. That's awesome. That was on my live stream, latest live stream. 100% love this, said SKWPG, who's awesome. SK was on the live stream yesterday. Really had a good time talking. Commented on a short here about session 0. Another comment here on the session 0 short. I recently ended a campaign. This is from Ben Nutter. I don't know how to say his name. I recently ended a campaign because a couple of players managed to kill the enthusiasm for me, and the group's starting a new campaign with the non-problematic players in secret because we are part of the same social group's friends outside, but I'm not willing to run a game with them in it again. I understand. This is very familiar. I have done this more than once. Yes, this is a very understandable way to handle it. Very understandable. So I published a video kind of recently that was like, basically, it was a little bit of a clickbait video where I was like, my players rage quit my game, but they didn't actually rage quit. A player just like messaged me and wanted to sort out like players talking over each other. And I talked about that issue. And like on a VTT, sometimes you have players talking over each other, and that can get kind of messy. So I wanted to basically make a video outlining my 4-step plan to fix that. But I got some interesting comments on that video, which you'll see here in a minute. That video, like that, had very mixed reactions. John Haney said, Shadow Dark, let me run a game for you so you can see how awesome it is. Heck yeah, I mentioned Shadow Dark in that video, which I might actually get into some Shadow Dark sometime soon. Another comment on that video, Quillogist, 2875 said, I've run into this problem once in a while. I normally just stop the group and sort them out. I think 10 minutes is too long. Getting one 10-minute turn in an hour makes a character wait forever. So that's true. I talked in the video about how we might do 10-minute turns. I do think that that's a little long. I'm going to have to see how it feels for this group. 7 minutes might be better. I've been actually thinking about 7 minutes. So Quillogist, legit comment. You're not wrong. I said 10 minutes. That's just kind of a number by default I threw out there, but that might change. Good comment. Nip 3004 said, how else? Oh, this was on a session 0 short. How else would you run a session 0? Isn't the entire point getting everyone on the same page and ensuring everyone's on board with the type of campaign? Yeah, it is. Basically, people sometimes leave these kind of comments, like basically saying, why would you even make this video? Obviously, this is what everyone would do. People leave these kind of comments a lot, actually, interestingly, when I say things that like some people might consider obvious. But anyway, so yeah. Well said, Nip. Thank you so much for calling out the obviousness. Russell Duffer said about my rage quit video, unclear how this would work in dungeons or other times when the group needs to be synergistic. Yes, there are times when the group does need to be synergistic. And basically what I outlined for that was there will be times when we will bring players into there'll be like a group cinematic scene, and I'll announce that. So we'll go into like group mode sometimes. The turns is only for the in-between times. There'll be times when the players are going to all be together, obviously, especially during like action times or times when they're sneaking through a dungeon or whatever. There's going to be times. So you're right, Russell Duffer. There are times when the turn-by-turn play style wouldn't work. We would have to have everyone on the same timeline for sure. Black Moose Musev 6833 says on this rage quit video, to be honest, thumbs down. Was more interesting when what you were saying was true. Attaboy, not. So basically, when it sounded like my life sucked, they were on board. But then when it turned out it wasn't as bad as I made it out to be, no fun anymore. I'm sorry to disappoint you, Black Moose. Ergon Mix 9977 said, on a short, I had about a session 0. I made a bunch of session 0 shorts because I clipped up a video. Because of the majority of player selection vetting happens before session 0. Session 0 is for making sure everyone is on the same page for the campaign, reinforcing ground rules and seeing how people interact in a relaxed setting. Some decent people that pass the vibe check just so happen to be crap players or crap people pretending to be decent. But those kinds of people will slip through if you treat it like a job interview because they're good at telling you what you want to hear. Oh, okay, so basically they're like commenting on, because I was talking about how session 0 could be made like a job interview. Valid, super valid. Good comment. Sam Carlson said, AI cringe slop thumbnail. You should be ashamed. These are the ones I like. So on my rage quit thumbnail, let me bring up an image of that thumbnail if I can find it without taking forever. See if I can show you. Let me actually see. It's kind of hard to actually zoom in. Basically, it's just a thumbnail that's very AI generated. Obviously, AI image and stuff. I get a lot of these. I made a video about this that kind of blew up. Not really blew up, but for me, blew up. That people, I got a lot of negative comments about my views on AI. So yes, AI cringe slop. Thank you so much for your opinion. Mark Powell says, it took you until 4 minutes and 50 seconds to introduce your solution steps. Dude, come on. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm sorry to make you wait. I appreciate your patience. Thank you for the feedback. B. Lynn says, to battle the algorithm. Thank you, B. Lynn. You always leave these comments, and I so appreciate it because this is exactly the type of thing that's actually helpful for my channel, that helps my channel grow. So thank you so much for this. Now, B. Lynn also said this. Your live streams are typically longer than your pre-recorded episodes. So for me, they are put into a playlist for watching when I get through all the videos that are less than 43 minutes. Additionally, if a video is over a half hour, I am more critical about what I watch based on the title and title card. That checks out. I'm also very selective about long-form videos I watch. I tend to watch videos in like a couple minute segments unless I'm going to actually plan to watch a longer form video, in which case I will be more selective. So B-Lin checks out. It sounds like, based on this, it sounds like the takeaway here is that you're advising me to kind of take my titles, cards, and thumbnails and such like a lot more seriously on those that are longer, which is actually a legit comment. Dirty Socks is in the house. Hello, Dirty Socks. Speaking of which, Dirty Socks is a counselor in the GM Philosophy Discord. You should join us. Links in the description. It is free. We are over 500 GMs strong, talking about this business of empowering game masters to run better games. It's the goal here of the channel. All right, let's move on to Alex Norman 9354. This was on my session 0 long form video I released recently about vetting players and treating it like a job interview. Alex Norman said, thanks for another well thought out and presented video. I wish I would have been more selective with whom I invited into my games. I think about whether I would want to go on a road trip with them or have them help me plan a birthday party. Keep up the good work. Thanks again for the video. Hey, that's a great comment. Yeah, absolutely. That makes total sense. Dirty Socks said, oh, speaking of Dirty Socks, I like the job interview reference. Haven't seen it from that angle, but I do understand how that definitely benefits for the game you want to run. Nice one. Heck yeah. Thank you for the comment. Paul Sabas said, great vid. Thank you. Mr. Vincent says, first live I've missed in forever. Oh, that's my last or live stream before last. Mr. Vincent, you were missed. Mr. Vincent's usually present on the live streams. Really appreciate it. Got a cough. I can't cut these things out on live stream, right? Dirty Sock says, are the audits already full party or is there still space? When is it? How many spaces are there? Hey, great question. I'm going to start a new type of content coming up very soon. It's going to be called Tabletop Audit, where I'm going to be a player and then a GM and then the rest of the party are going to play through a one-shot and I'm going to film the whole thing and then I'm going to commentate as we go. Basically commentate on what I think of the one-shot, what I think of the GM style, what I think of the game. It's going to be very fun, very dramatic. It's going to be you're going to get to see the way people run games. You're going to get to hear me critique, comment on, give praise where praise is due, give criticism where criticism is due. It's going to be a fun time. That's what Dirty Socks is referencing. Now, here's the thing. Right now, the only way to get into the tabletop audits is to go to my Discord. Links in the description, and you can jump in and you will see me posting about this nearly every day right now. We have Crossfire's game on Tuesday. Dirty Socks is full, but Herminator, his game on Friday, still has space. And I think there's only 2 more slots available for that one. And those are all for next week. And then we're going to schedule some the week after. I'm going to try to schedule at least one of these a week. Schedule 2 for the first week because I like to go twice as hard as everyone else. Anyway, so that's the news on that. Dirty Socks. If you want to jump into that, you know what to do. Just message me and let me know. I'll put you in it. No questions asked. Sickle Blaze. I believe this is Darth Vader. I'm potentially running one on the 28th, but the details aren't finalized. 28th, does that work? 28th would check out. Sickle Blaze, if you are down with that, I will call that for sure. We'll lock that in. We could do it at any time on the 28th. I believe I will be available at any time. Let me double check that, but I'm pretty sure I'll be available at any point between 8 a.m. and basically we would have to be done before 11 p.m. Central Standard Time. But if you're down, I'm down. Let's rock and roll. It would be so much fun to get into one of your games and be a player. All right. And Darth Vader or Sickle Blaze, I'm pretty sure you're Darth Vader. You can just message me. Feel free to private message me. We have a private message going on, but I'm just letting you know that'll tend to jump to the top of my priority list. Dirty Sock says, yes, I know what to do. Throwing it out there for interested folks. Yes. Great thing to talk about. I was actually going to talk about that, and I probably would have forgotten. So great thing. Thank you so much. All right, let's go back to comments here. Mr. Wu on one of my shorts about Session Zero says, because I've had the same 4 friends for the last 15 years. You know what? If you have a bunch of friends you've been gaming with forever, you don't have to necessarily run a deep Session Zero. Sickle Blaze says, yes, does me Darth Vader, still narrowing down which adventure. As long as it's morning, I'm good to go. And you could be Rhythmancer. And you could be Ritmancer. Oh, yes, I could be. I've actually been thinking about a character. So, Darth Vader, I've never run my Chuckalandra character in one of your games. I'm thinking about running her in your game, maybe. I have a tanky Paladin of Nature homebrew class and homebrew character called Chuckalandra Acorn Thimbleweed. Friends call me Chucky. I'm here to vanquish evil and subdue all evildoers. She's like a southern raw talking, like a squirrel folk. SK says snacks on Discord channel where? I think maybe Avery meant intellectual snacks. I'm actually very hungry right now. So when I heard snacks mentioned, my stomach went where? I am drinking an energy drink, but it's low on calories. All right. Let's dive into comments. Garrick Strangle. Garrick, really appreciate Garrick. He's always in the Discord hanging out, always leaving good comments. Says, people keep ignoring the value of opponents' spell books to the party casters. This was on a video about loot. Yes. And I think it is. So here's the thing. I think that when you play with players who are really attuned to attention to detail, things like this become more important to them. Whereas players who don't really pay attention to detail, they're just more like, well, can I just get a thing and sell it? There's like gathering loot without paying too much attention to detail. See, when I'm a player, I like to know the details of the loot. I think it's so much fun. It's like, if I find a sword, what does it look like? Like, GM, describe like what the hilt looks like what the blade looks like, what condition is it in? Are there any markings that might indicate where it came from? Like, even if it's just like some poor family's handed down weapon, that's cool lore to me. I like hearing about that. I think that players who pay close attention to detail are much more fun to play with, to be honest. I think this is what Garrick's talking about. Ignoring the value of spell books to the party's caster. So it's like getting an enemy spell book, how valuable that can be to the wizard of the party. You're right. Absolutely right. David Woodruff on my my job interview session 0 videos commented and said, 1, you have to have players be selective. This is true. And 2, well, there is really only 1. Okay. David, it sounds like you don't have any players. This makes me sad. You should join our Discord and run a game in there. You would definitely find players. And so I hope you do that. Best of luck to you, my friend. Thanks for the comment. Milo Kiss says, I feel like this is again on session 0 stuff. I really feel like this only applies to D&D with random people. In my opinion, session 0 happens after player selection. And then another person says, agreed, but it's also for all the players to vet the GM and the campaign. Session 0 is meant to be a learning tool for all parties to create a world you all enjoy. You're right. Milocus, this is way more appropriate to if you've never gamed with someone. If you've already gamed with someone, you can almost skip session 0. Almost. You're right. So, like, for example, if I'm playing with William or Waz, we've played so many times together that when they jump in, it doesn't really feel like session 0 is necessary, except for to just very basically get on the same page. Hey, here's what we're doing. This is supposed to be gritty, grim, dark. You down? Are you down? That's pretty much all there is to talk about with them. But there are new people. I want to make sure we're on the same page. Try to make sure we're launching into the same kind of game we both want to play, right? Robert Evans says about session 0, it goes both ways, in my opinion. Players vet the DM and the DM vet the players. Absolutely. You don't want to waste your time with a bad DM. Avery says hi. How's it going, Avery? Caleb Heffinger said, maybe they want it to be a fun, inviting hobby and aren't up their own butt. Maybe, I hope. Caleb Heffinger, exactly. Everyone needs to make sure the game is for them. Totally. Blue Rose Lion, shout out to Blue Rose Lion. Always appreciate you. Love the idea of an online convention. Just don't. Oh, this was talking about an online convention. Okay. I am planning to do, I think it's going to be twice a year, an online TTRPG convention. I have not put out more information about that yet, but it was put out in an announcement. So these are just comments about that. Keep your eye out for this. I am actually working on this. This is going to be so fun. And it's going to be really cool. Basically, trying to I'm not going to say anything more than that. Information coming down the pipe. Join the Discord, especially if you don't want to miss out on stuff, but watch the YouTube because I'll post YouTube updates too. But anyway, Blue Rose Line said, love the idea of an online convention, just don't outprice it, please. Not saying to lowball the price per head, but you know what I'm saying or trying to say. Yes, totally get you. These things are difficult because on one hand, you're trying to run a business, and on the other hand, you want everyone to be involved. And for some people, price can be a barrier. There's also an element of, the people who really care would pay a bit, which helps to support the business, right? So it's a delicate balance. It's a delicate balance when you're dealing with something like TTRPGs. I think it's a delicate balance. Mikey B said, on my update video, glad you survived the AI onslaught. Holy cow, how many subs did you lose from that? This gives you an idea of what it looked like in the comment section. It was a massacre in there. Not really a massacre. There was a lot of complaining going on. I said only 22. I think it turned out to be like 24 all said and done or something. Mikey B said, oh man, it seemed like way more than that. We're freaking out. Glad to hear it wasn't as bad as it seemed. Have you considered doing a video on AI prompts and how you use AI for your game? I'm starting to use it more and more to fill in the gaps of my own details and to help me scale up, down monsters for encounters. It's also pretty good at generating random treasures. I have thought about doing videos about that, but I'll be super honest. Some of those videos are a little technical, and I don't know, man. I'm going to be honest with you. I struggle with technical videos. I don't really like making technical videos, but we might do it. If it'd be really helpful and people would like it, then we might do it. But the technical videos take like a lot more time to edit and put together than non-technical videos, which is fine. But there's also, but when you combine that, all the extra work with me not really liking making technical videos, that's why I don't usually make those kinds of videos. Dirty Sock says, heard you were probably getting into Shadow Dark soon. Did you already get the book? No, I have not gotten the book. I just mentioned that in my live stream yesterday because we're actually using sort of like a mechanic that was inspired by a mechanic in Shadow Dark for our turn-based order in my Darkest Dawn game. I'm going to adopt that so people don't lose time talking over each other in the game. And I'm probably going to be buying Shadow Dark. Maybe I'll buy it for myself for Christmas. I'm not in too big of a hurry, though, because my to-do list is long. I have a lot going on. So I have to be a little careful not to get too much going on. Twin Steel said, happy to hear you're in a great place. Thank you, Twin Steel. So happy to see you in the comment section. Twin Steel was one of the first ones on the channel, commenting, thumbs upping every video, helping me to make the channel grow. Thank you so much for your help and support. Good friend. Mr. Rourke said, well, engage them. Okay, so this is interesting. I posted a short about like basically some of my biggest pet peeves, and then like things I didn't like and when players weren't being engaged, and how as GM it's like a red flag, right? It's really interesting how some people jump on this bandwagon of like, well, I must suck as a GM if my players aren't always totally engaged, which is not the truth. This is not true. No, I have not tried Daggerheart. It's also on my to-do list. It's also on my to-do list, but I want to try it. I do want to try it. But people jump in here, so basically I was in this video, in this short, I was talking about how it's one of my pet peeves if people pull out their phone and are like playing a video game on their phone while trying to play D&D and the noise and the sound is turned on. It's like my biggest pet peeve. And in this day and age, I would never, ever let that happen for even 1 second. I would be like, we are not right for each other. And I'm sorry. No hate, but go play your video game somewhere else. That's basically what I would say. But anyway, I was saying how this is my big pet peeve. And then Mr. Rourke says, well, engage them. Obviously, it's my fault if my players aren't, if my players are choosing to play a video game during session, it's my fault, not their fault for just like not trying to be a good engaged player. There's an element of players do need to try to be engaged. And there's certain players who just like, I don't know, they're just sitting there because they have nowhere better to be. And that's the truth of it. I've realized people sometimes don't like it when I say this. This has become an unpopular thing I say. Okay, it's true. Yeah, you do want to engage your players. You got to be a good GM or people aren't going to keep coming back, right? This is, you can tell. You can tell. SK says, I'm currently building my homebrew campaign and I'm building intelligent creatures. Do you run games with intelligent goblins with crazy pack tactics to target casters? So goblins specifically, here's what I do. I usually run goblins as like, they're relatively intelligent and they have relatively good pack tactics. They're a humanoid race. I think they have an intelligence score of like 10 generally. So they're, they're about as intelligent as a human or even like an elf or whatever. But here's the difference. How sophisticated are they, right? So my goblins tend to be more like just kind of like scrappers unless someone is organizing them. So the most dangerous thing that can happen with goblins is that they have like a dark elf who is basically assembling them and organizing them and helping them to improve their pack tactics. And then they become way more powerful. That's kind of how I run it. I generally run goblins as being, scrappers, not super strategically sophisticated, right? Anyway, good question. I love goblins. All right. Another comment on this. Do you know what burns my butt? A fire about this high. I see you. Good comment. So I made a video about basically helping players to be more engaged, like things I do. This was back before the other video. And Baby Krobigan said this. I've only DM'd once and it ended up crashing and burning. What I wanted, what my players wanted were two different things. I thought it would be really good to have it involved. story and character development and bonds exploration, etc. But when I asked them for backstories and 1 to 2 personal connections related to NPCs, all but one player just ignored me completely and didn't respond. We'd play on VTT. Okay, so that right there is like, you said it was your first time DMing. You've only DM'd once, and so you wouldn't know. But I'm going to tell you right now that that's not cool. They should have responded to you. At the very least, they should have said, I don't want to make a backstory, or I'm not good at that. Can you help me? That's what a respectful player would have done. So the fact that they just ignored you, already that's disrespectful. I'm just going to say. So when we actually played, everyone but that one player were just disconnected nobodies who were spawned into the world with no knowledge or connections, while the other player had a rich father who controlled the starting town and had connections throughout the land. Her name was known. She had people she knew, a personal guard, an arranged marriage later on, etc. And the other players seemed annoyed with how much attention she was getting. Okay. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, I think is the phrase, is what they say. Listen. And this is for players. And I don't make content really for players, but I might start, because players need to learn how to play D&D too. You are directly in charge of how much fun you get to have playing D&D. The more effort you put into the game as a player and your character and working with the game master to tell the story of your character, the more fun it's going to be for you, the better it's going to be. And if you don't put any effort in, and you just walk in there expecting for the GM to be some kind of miracle worker when you haven't done your part, guess what? This isn't the GM just running a game that you're getting invited to, and then they're going to do all the magic for you. This is a collaborative intellectual art creation exercise. And it's really important for players to know this. I generally talk to game masters about how to take responsibility for, basically running a good game for their players, keeping them engaged and stuff. But it is a two-way street, my friends. And this is why I also talk to game masters about vetting players and not letting nonsense at their table. Avery says, players definitely need some help on how to behave at a table of strangers. Yes, no, definitely. You know what? I'm going to make some videos about that. That's what my next live stream is going to be about. It's going to be for players. Dear players, a love letter from a GM who has seen bad player behavior and is going to talk about it. Anyway. So all of the players were incurious and didn't explore, and I was too inexperienced to make it enticing to do so. That's fair. Don't be too hard on yourself. But that's a player thing. Players can find interest in the things you say. You just had disengaged players. You had players who weren't engaged from the beginning. They were never planning to be engaged, is what you're dealing with here. This wasn't you doing a bad job. You might have done a bad job, I don't know. But that's not what was going on here. That wasn't the predominant issue. The predominant issue was you had players who never planned on showing up and actually doing their part, is what it sounds like. I was so nervous about any silence that I would talk too much. I would hold their hands too much, make everything too easy, mindless, etc. When they'd make a decision or action the module book didn't account for, I couldn't compensate well for it. That's improvisation, and we just learn it. It's a muscle that we have to work out. The best thing you can do is just run a whole bunch of one shots with no plans and improvise everything and practice. I did that. I ran dozens of one shots that I had no plans for, just running because I was practicing improv, and it was fun. For me, it was fun. SK says, failure as catalyst. Love this. Every failed roll is an invitation, not for punishment, but for complication. Ah, yes. So I believe that's from my book, SK, I believe you purchased my book, which is awesome. But the Advanced Art of TTRPG, oh, he said it right here. I missed this. Downloaded the Advanced Art of TTRPG Game Mastery and started reading it. My favorite part that every player needs to know is failure as catalyst. Love this. Every failed roll is an invitation, not for punishment, but for complication. Absolutely. So I think that there are players out there who just want to come in and dominate the game. They want to beat everybody. They want to solve every puzzle. And that's what gets them going. But that's ignoring a whole part of the experience. A whole part of the experience is creating the story, and you don't even know what the story is yet. The story is being created in this collaborative environment. And when you introduce dice, there's an element of chaos to that. So there's an element of the unknown. And that's such a beautiful thing that when you embrace it makes the game so much better. And a lot of people have trouble with that. A lot of players have trouble with that. They have trouble failing in the game but then they think failure is actually failure. They don't see it as just a turn in the story, right? And game masters should also embrace this. When you feel like you led the story in a weird direction, like Baby Krogan is saying, you didn't know what to do because you're improvising. They went off script. They went off the beaten path. You were running a module and they went a totally different direction. You might think to yourself, oh no, my improvisation wasn't good. It wasn't as good as the module. It wasn't as polished. My names were weird. I named I was started naming the NPCs weird things, whatever. But the truth is, the more you do that, the better you get at it, first of all. Secondly, it doesn't matter if it's super polished because it's an experiential creative endeavor. We're not doing this because we expect for our art to be displayed on a museum wall for brilliance and excellence. We're doing this because we are creating together, and that creation is the activity. SK says, brilliant response. So looking forward to somehow getting into one of your games someday. Absolutely. I would love that. You should check my start playing listings and jump into one of the Darkest Dawn. The Darkest Dawn is shaping up to be metal as hell, guys. I'm going to eventually use the content we're creating in there to make maybe an adventure module. I would love to do that. I love making adventure modules, and then they don't usually sell very well. I think that the true way is for game masters to make their own adventure modules. So I may just make it to run my players through. I don't even know that selling is a big deal. I created the Haunting at Ashbro adventure module, and that didn't really sell very well, right? People weren't super interested in it. And I think it's because game masters care the most about their own adventures, which makes sense to me. That's why I haven't made another adventure module, because that's what I kind of concluded. I concluded that, it means a lot to me and I thought it's brilliant, but it's because it's my adventure, right? I designed it. So it means more to me than it does to the average other game master. So the true way would be for game masters to design their own modules and then to run players through them and then to make them better as time goes on and maybe share them with each other if they're interested in it, right? That's because there are some GMs who are going to be a certain level interested in what you might make as a module, right? So anyway, that's kind of where I've arrived at that. And I think that's a fun thing. I think it's a good thing for game masters to create their own modules. Anyway, so Baby Krogan, I responded to the comment just briefly. That's a very common story for running your first game is don't give up. You'll learn and adapt quickly on to the next attempt. And that's the truth. Yep. You'll learn, you'll adapt, you'll get it figured out. No reason to beat yourself up. Sometimes it be that way. On that same one, Ladron Pyroton says, means your game sessions are boring. You need to bring that good juice to both in either combat or your storytelling. People either feel your setting or don't. That's why most people avoid GMing. It's not hard, in my opinion, when you have a goal, a hidden message, and mesmerizing player agency. All you need after that is learning to execute your GM style. If you have to dwell on everything said in this video, in my honest opinion, it's a GM problem 90%. Because players want to be engaged in ways that inspire them to discover. Okay, that is not true. I'm telling you right now. Ladron Pyroton. You say... let me see, where was it? Players want to be engaged in ways that inspire them to discover. Okay. It's not that that's not true, but the way you're saying that, you're missing out a huge part. You should say, because players will either show up planning to engage in ways to discover, or they will not. Okay? And to be really honest, a really good player will do this even with a bad GM, and they will even have fun as much as they can with the bad GM. If the game, like, take a GM who's great at detail, great at everything, polished, versus like a GM who maybe is, stumbling, not good at improv, whatever. A great player will still be able to have a great time in that session, regardless. Maybe they'll have a better time with a really polished GM because they can enjoy so much more in-depth detail. But, so you're leaving out a desire to engage, a willingness, like a plan to engage on the part of the players. We shouldn't just think about players as if they're going to show up as a completely blank, like dead-faced, deadpan human, disengaged, and it's our job to engage them. No, it is not. That's called a bad player. We want players who show up ready to engage, willing to engage, planning to engage, and then we invite them into this world and we all create together. That's a good player. So I kind of disagree with this. I've been hosting games in Roll20 pickup games since the start, and I've enjoyed 90% of my time running for the most random players. I learned to find other players who mesh well together. It can only happen when you learn to execute your game sessions with those agencies leading the way. Again, if it's good juice, then the popcorn is ready and it won't skip a flavorful beat. Personally, if I have to do all these tips, I feel like I'm babysitting. I don't remember exactly what my tips were. I'm not babysitting disengaged, disrespectful, bad actors. I never have to yell or flame others when I debate them post-game as they sort themselves out. Well, I hope not. I don't know. I never said to do that. I never have to yell or flame others when I debate them post-game as they sort themselves out. Who's even debating post-game? I never said that either. I don't know why you'd be debating with them post-game. I am an advocate for doing a post-game debriefing, talking about the session, what you liked, what you didn't like. Everyone sharing their opinions about it. I don't know about debate. It's a strong word. I don't have time for that. As they sort themselves out when I host the next session. If they come back next session, then guess who's enjoying my games and becoming a good actor? Cat. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess good for you. I appreciate the comment. Don't necessarily agree with the one part of it, but all the rest of it kind of checks out. Don't know who's yelling and flaming at the end of the session. That sounds like a red flag. So, if you're playing with a GM who's yelling or flaming at players after the session, seems like probably an unstable situation. This is a comment on an old video I posted a long time ago, how to create D&D lore and share it with your players. It was a live stream. Dale Richardson says, hello, GM. I know it's been a while, but good to be here. Hey, great to have you, Dale. Thank you so much. Good to see you. Stinker the First says, the sharing part is what I find difficult, so I like the advice here. Info dump and exposition directly from the DM to the players feels unsatisfying. I agree. Players don't want to sit through your half-hour lore exposition. The idea of sharing a few basic and common things that any given person would be aware of sounds better, and then feeding nuggets over time. Letters, maps, statues, other locations, and books as other bits of lore become relevant. I agree. And that's, I think, what I recommended in the video. I can't remember. It's been a long time. I've made a lot of videos. I've made something like over 400 videos on my channel at this point. An NPC shouldn't feel like they are a mouthpiece for the DM to dump lore. No, I agree. I totally agree. The only situation where I can imagine that feeling diegetic would be if the players deliberately go to some scholar or sage and say, please tell us the legend of X. Yes, I agree. Good comment. Stinker the First. I love that comment. Shabayim. I'm going to love this one too, even though it was a little salty. Lad run pirate, and I don't really understand some of what you're saying. But anyway, deserve a heart for sure. Welcome to my 8-hour TED Talk about my world state. Yes. Yes, probably not a good idea. I understand. I don't want to, I'll be honest, I want to get into the game if I'm a player. That is the thing. I don't want to hear a 7-hour world exposition. I want to hear I want 15 minutes of what I would need to know. And here's the thing, if I have questions about the world, I'll ask them as I'm making my character because I want to know. There are some things I may want to know, and I want to incorporate some things from the world. I might ask things like, hey, where would my character based on their species most likely come from? I kind of plan for them to be from a noble background. How would that fit into this part of the world? Here's what I was thinking. Or I may write a thing and be like, does this fit with your world? Right? This is what I think is good. Pale Crusader says, so it is a vehicle for you to process next girlfriend. Okay, so I don't know why they said this. This was just me. This was a short I made from a video where I was talking about Cynthia, an NPC character I'm running in the Darkest Dawn. And then this person says, so it is a vehicle for you to process an ex-girlfriend. It sounds like good for you. Role play is therapeutic. I jumped. I never said that in the video, and it's actually not a vehicle for me to process an ex-girlfriend. I do process things in D&D, but they're usually more deeply unsettling things like existential dread or, feeling like there's no such thing as a plan and we're all on our own and everything's going to die anyway. So those are the kind of things that I tend to do. Sickle Blaze says it got accidentally deleted, but I had a couple dozen idiotically unbacked up pages of world lore that was available for players across campaigns they could read if wanted. That's cool. Yeah, no, that's super cool. Sucks that it got deleted. That sucks when that happens. Anyway, no, I don't process the ex-girlfriends. I might have ex-girlfriends who are, inspiration for NPCs. This has happened more than once. But anyway, whatever. Conversation for another day. M. Xerax says, how do you not just instantly kick them from the table? That was the players playing games while playing D&D. I would be so upset. And then I said, I look at these things initially as a learning opportunity and a chance for me to try different experiments to fix a problem, which is true. That's why, the last time I had a player do this, play video games at the table, was when I was playing a game for friends and I was prioritizing playing with these friends over the quality of the game. So there you go. It's a priority order thing. I do not do that now. I do not play that way now. Now I always prioritize game, tone, setting, game I want to play, find players who jive, because I want to take the game to a deeper level. I don't just want to play beer and pretzels, D&D. No offense to people who do. And I'm not trying to talk bad about that. I feel like whenever I say things like that, people think I'm talking bad about beer and pretzels gamers. I'm not. You can beer and pretzel game all you want. But I don't want to be in those games. I don't want to play in those games. I want to push the boundaries with games, with other players who want to push the boundaries. Sickle Blaze says, but I tell players that I will give them lore when it is found or something they'd known as characters that was part of their campaign. No need to talk about the gods' war. The gods actually lost. Nice. That sounded like a little lore dump right there, like a little secret bit of lore. For players in a campaign where those players would never interact with it. Yeah, no, super true. Yeah, totally. I agree. I think, sounds like you deliver lore in roughly the same way that I do, which is like kind of give the basic necessities at first and then make it a fun thing to stick it in as you go. I think that's real fun. All right. We've got time for one more comment. Dirty Socks. I'm so bummed out that I missed this, which was live stream 2 live streams ago. Let me know when you're doing stuff like this again. I love to help. Awesome. Thank you, Dirty Socks. Let's go one more because that's Dirty Socks comments are always nice. Very little drama there. Let's go for another one. SKWPG says about the Session Zero thing. I've never understood why GMs on VTT games where all players are paying allow for certain players to show up late, not interact or over interact, dominating the game, etc., and not boot them. I'm about to run my first campaign ever, and I will let everyone know what is expected and what the consequences for falling out of the expected. Gone. I want a fun session for me and all players and will not sacrifice the many. It's all about fit and fun for all. Yeah, no, I agree. I also think that there are things that different GMs, care about more. I'm going to be really honest. The showing up late thing, there are a lot of GMs I know who disagree with me about this, but I am actually not super bothered if a player shows up 10 minutes late or 15 minutes late. I'm not super bothered by that, because a lot of times the truth is, and I know this is the truth 90% of the time, life is busy. God knows it's hectic out there. It's hard out there. And if a player was late, kept late at work, or if they had to do some things quick, they had to feed the dog, they had to let the chickens out, they had to, scrape the frost off their windshield. I understand needing to be a little late. And to be honest, you can tell there's a huge difference between being late because life is just full of stuff that needs to get done and you're just running a little behind, and then like not caring about the game. Those are definitely two different things. And the vast majority of the time when people are late to my games, it does not at all feel like it's because they don't care about the game. It feels more like they're saying, man, I want to get there. I have to do this stupid thing. That's kind of what it like, and I'm going to be late because of it. Like, that's what it feels like. And I don't want to like further beat up on them for that. And to be honest, I'm not mad about it. Now, with that being said, SK, I understand what you're saying, and I'm not trying to tell you not to prioritize that. I'm just saying that's one example of a thing that I'm actually probably surprisingly chill about. A lot of people would probably be surprised how chill I am about that. SK says, legit late, all good. If it happens, this is SK, literally the person from the comment. Legit being late, it's all good. If it happens once in a while due to real life. I was thinking more of a habit, disrespect while table. Yeah, that's totally different. And that comes down to someone just not taking the game seriously, right? And for that, it's like, yes, no, totally don't want to game with those kinds of people. Happy face. Absolutely, totally on the same page with you. So yeah, I think we're on the same page on that. I like to give that disclaimer because I think that man, life is getting hectic and hard out there. Drop a comment, let me know. Do you think that life is just getting harder out there? I think it's getting more expensive. It's getting more complicated. Stuff is getting crazy and whack out there, man. I feel for young people. A lot of people say there's this Gen Z, they have this, what do they call the Gen Z stare? I heard a lot of people say things like Gen Z, they have no passion, they have no direction, they have no plans to like have children and buy houses. Like these are things I hear people say. I don't know if these things are actually true. This is what I hear people say. I do have a Gen Z daughter, but she is like, I would guess normal aspirations and plans. I don't think she's unusually crushed by existential dread or anything. But I hear a lot of people say this. But man, there's a part of me that's like, if I was Gen Z and I was looking at this crazy world, would I be super motivated? Like, I don't know, man. Houses get expensive. Wages aren't really going up. Inflation, I think it's lower now, but it was pretty high there for a little while. Makes you wonder what's the point of trying to save money. That I don't actually think that there is a point to saving money, building your savings stuff. But when you see inflation go up above the return on your, go up above the return you get on your interest when it's sitting in the high yield savings account, there's a part of you that wonders, what in the hell am I doing? What in the hell is going on here? The downward trend of all this is quickly outpacing any progress I'm making, right? Now, I think life is all about making a plan, attacking that plan with all of your resources and trying to achieve the things you want to achieve in life. Sometimes you got to get creative out here. Sometimes you've got to find creative solutions to the big problems. But I am saying, I don't think life's getting any easier out there. I think it's getting hard. I think some people are feeling it. I really do. I think that's the truth, man. I think that I want to have some empathy for that. I want to have empathy for that. All right. With that being said, I think that's going to wrap up the live stream. Thank you all so much for coming and hanging out with me. I really appreciate it. And hey, empowering game masters to run better games is the goal here. I hope you all have a great day. I will catch all you awesome people on the next one. SK says, Jam philosophy guy giving out philosophy about life in addition to game. Thank you. Whether or not it's good philosophy or not, I guess remains to be seen, but it is what it is, and I believe in it. I believe in it. All right. See you all later.